time we had a lecture about ancient Chinese philosophy. And today we will talk about ancient Greek philosophy. And first, let's look at some questions. First, who are we? Second, where was I from? Third, where will I go? And fourth, how can we be happy? And the last question is a big question. It's about the universe. Does the universe have a purpose? In all of these 5 questions, is there anything common? Yes. All of these questions are basic and common in Western philosophy. And let's look at the Greek philosophy characteristics. Greek philosophers approached the big questions of life. The big questions of life. What does it mean? For example, just now we proposed a couple of questions and we find some of the questions are very practical and some of the questions are very big. For example, the number 5 question. And in which way? Sometimes in a genuine scientific way and sometimes in a mystic way, mysterious, but always in an imaginative fashion. That means philosophers usually put out some questions imaginatively, okay? And then go on. And let's look at Greek thinkers. Greek thinkers dared to question traditional conventions and to challenge the prejudices of their age. So sometimes putting their own lives at stake. So what's the meaning of putting their own lives at stake? That means sometimes they were in danger and even lost their lives. And the Greek philosophy as an independent cultural genre began around 600 BC. Last lecture we said ancient Chinese philosophy began around 800 BC. From this we know ancient Chinese philosophy was 200 years earlier than Western philosophy. And its insights still persist to our times. Let's look at the great philosophers in ancient Greece. Who were they? First one, yes, Socrates. Second, yes, Plato. And number 3, Aristotle. Is there any relationship between these 3 big guys? We will discuss that later. And let's look at this picture. Do you know any one of them? Okay, let's look. So let's look at this picture. Who is this man? And this is the Sandman. And this is a famous oil painting. So from this painting, I believe some of you know who is this big man. Because the painting's name is The Death of Socrates. This is an oil painting on canvas by a French in 1787. And from this picture we know Socrates was sentenced to death by Athenian court by drinking hemlock. Okay. Now let's look at Socrates. Socrates lived from 469 BC to 399 BC. That means when he died, he was 70 years old. And Socrates was one of the founders of Western philosophy. And he was the first, look at this, Yes, he was the first moral philosopher of the Western ethical tradition of thought. That means he made great contribution to ethics. Yes, we get this ethical tradition of thought. And he was regarded as the greatest philosophical personality in Greek history. So when we mention ancient Greek philosophy, there is one man which cannot be escaped. That is Socrates. And let's look. And Socrates was renowned for his contribution to the fields of ethics. Now let's review the last page. Just now we said Socrates was the first model philosopher of the Western ethical tradition of thought. Here we say it in details. That is, he made great contributions to the fields of ethics, 伦理学, and another field, that is epistemology, 认识论. And he believed that every person has full knowledge of ultimate truth contained within the soul and needs only to be spurred. So how to understand this ultimate truth? Ultimate truth, that means the real truth which is not easy to be learned, but at last it can be recognized. But what should we do is to spur this from the soul of us. Okay, and let's go on. Let's look at the Socrates belief. Socrates believed that the philosopher's task is to provoke people into thinking for themselves, rather than to teach them anything they did not know. So, I think this one is a little similar with our Chinese proverb, that is, 授人以鱼，不如授之以渔. That means we should teach them how to fish, rather than give them some fish. Okay. But Socrates had a big pity in his life. Also, we can say that's also a pity in our human's history. That is, Socrates left no writings as records of his thought. So, how to make up this big pity? There was a big man, or there was a great man doing such great things. Okay, who? Let's look. His teachings were preserved by somebody. Now let's guess, who was this man? Yes, this man was Socrates' pupil or Socrates' student. Let's look at who? That's Plato. Let's look at Plato. Plato was from 427 BC to 347 BC, and Plato was a long-lived man. He died at the age of 80. Okay, at that time, it was really long-lived. And let's look. So this man is Plato. Plato looks more serious, And Plato was a student of Socrates. Okay, and he was the founder of academy. Remember here, this academy is different from other academy nowadays. And okay, and what is this academy? Academy was the first institution of higher learning in the Western world. In Chinese, that is 学园. Okay, and Plato was pivotal figure in the history of ancient Greek and Western philosophy. Just now we said Socrates can't be escaped when talking about ancient Greek philosophy. Here there's another big man we have to mention, that is Plato. And let's go on. Let's look at this picture. This is a book's name, and the Republic. And this is the work of Plato, Chinese meaning, 理想国. And let's look at the famous notions from Alfred North Whitehead. Alfred North Whitehead was an English mathematician and philosopher. He had a very famous notion that is the safest general characterization of the European philosophical tradition is that it consists of a series of footnotes to Plato. How to understand this notion is not easy to understand. So that means if you want to understand European philosophical tradition, what you need to do is to read the series of footnotes to Plato. So this notion shows the great significance of Plato in philosophy. Okay? And let's look. Plato was best for his metaphysical and epistemological ideas. Metaphysical ideas, that means 玄学, 形而上学. And epistemological ideas, that means epistemology. We mentioned that. And let's look. One of his most influential insights was the theory of ideas. Also, we can call the theory of ideas the theory of forms. Okay, and let's look. Socrates' philosophy and teaching were chiefly described by Plato in the dialogues. Just now we said there was a big pity in Socrates' life. That means he had no writings left. And Plato made his big pity, and most of the Socrates' teaching were chiefly described in one book, that is the dialogues. By whom? By Plato. Okay? And let's look at the picture. We can guess who is Plato. Yes, from these two pictures we know Plato. Here. And let's guess who was this man. Was he Socrates or Plato's student? Yes, he was Plato's famous pupil, another big guy. Who? Let's go on. We will know the answer later. And let's look at this picture. This picture shows the scene of Plato's academy, teaching surroundings. Okay, just now we said Plato was the founder of academy. So this scene is of the academy. Yes, go on. Let's look at the third man, Aristotle. Aristotle was from 384 BC to 322 BC. And it seemed that Aristotle was more handsome. And let's look. Aristotle studied at Plato's academy at age 17 in 367 BC. And he stayed at that academy for the rest of his life. And Aristotle was the most illustrious pupil of Plato. And he was ranked with his teacher, Plato, among the most profound and influential thinkers of the Western world. So till now we know there are three men most profound and influential in the Western world. First one is Socrates, and then Plato, and now Aristotle. Now let's review one picture. Just now look at this picture. Just now we said this man was Plato, and this man was Plato's pupil. Who was he? Now I believe everybody knows who was he. Yes, he was Aristotle. Now let's look at the profound influence of Aristotle. Aristotle contributed to almost every field of human knowledge then in existence. That means Aristotle was really versatile, and he was the founder of many new fields such as formal logic, pioneered the study of zoology, also we can call that biology, and the scientific methods. And let's look at something in details. Aristotle defined many basic concepts and principles of the theoretical sciences, such as logic, just now we mentioned that, and biology, physics, and also psychology. And in his metaphysical theory, Aristotle criticized Plato's separation of form from matter, and he maintained that the forms or essence were contained within the concrete objects. So this is a great development in philosophy. And let's go on. This is Aristotle. And so let's look at this picture. This picture shows that different stamps circulating in different countries. And from this we know the great importance of Aristotle. Now let's look at this picture in Chinese to conclude the relationship of these three big guys and their contributions. Okay, all of these. Socrates was the teacher of Plato, and Plato was the teacher of Aristotle. Okay, and let's go on. Across the millennium, the voices of these Greek philosophers have been shaping our mind, institutions, leaders, and civilizations as a whole. After listening to this lecture, briefly introducing the ancient Greek philosophy, I hope you may understand Greek philosophy better. That's all for my lecture. Thank you very much. Thank you for your attention.